So today we will start a new topic which is impedance measurement. We studied resistance measurement particularly, but now we will study how to measure general impedance, AC impedance, capacitance, inductance, resistance or their combinations. In particular, we will study a lot of bridge circuits. Okay. So to start with, think of an inductor. We draw an inductor with this symbol, and when we use this symbol, we assume the inductor to be a pure inductance without any resistance, where the relation between the current through the inductor and the voltage across the inductor is given by V is equal to L di dt, where L is the inductance value. This is true for a pure inductor without any resistance, but that is impossible in practice. We do not have superconductors in practice, and therefore a practical inductor will also have some resistance in series with the inductance. That resistance is nothing but the resistance of the coil or the conductor, which may be the copper. Okay, so a practical inductor is a series combination of the inductance and a resistance, which may include the conductor resistance. Okay, and but this resistance may actually represent other energy dissipation phenomena, like if we are considering a iron core inductor, some coil wrapped on an iron core, then when we apply a voltage across that coil, then power is lost not only due to the Joule heating or I square R loss in the conductor, but also there may be loss due to hysteresis of the iron core, eddy current loss in iron core, and when all these are viewed together, then from outside, that means from the two terminals of your coil, it will behave like a combination of L and R overall. Okay, this resistance R will actually incorporate all other losses like hysteresis, eddy current loss, not only the Joule heating. Okay, only for air core transformer, this resistance is the copper resistance only. Otherwise, this may also include or model in principle the hysteresis and eddy current loss. Now, the point that I want to convey to you is that it is not necessary to always model a practical inductor as a series combination of L and R. We can always model a practical inductor as a parallel combination of L and R. Maybe it looks intuitive when you are thinking of a air core transformer, then this resistance is the copper resistance only, and then this series combination may look intuitive, but it is not necessary to model it always as a series combination. For example, suppose we have a series combination of a pure inductor and a resistor, call them LS and RS, S for series. Okay, you can always model it as a parallel combination of some LP and RP, such that from outside, from these two terminals A and B, outside to the outside world, both these combinations will behave equivalently. Okay, so if so, what will be the relation between LS, RS and LP, RP? Let us see that. Okay, so here we can write ZAB impedance between A and B, that is LS omega plus RS with a J. Okay, J LS omega plus RS. Achha. Now the impedance between A and B from this parallel combination, we can write this will be J omega LP RP divided by J omega LP plus RP. If these two combinations are equivalent, then this series combination and parallel combination should result in same impedance. Okay, so from this equation, we can find out the value of LP and RP in terms of LS and RS, or vice versa. Okay, either is possible. So we may write this as J omega LP RP multiplied with J omega L, let me take a minus here, J omega LP plus RP. Then in the denominator I will also multiply the same factor, and then it will become RP square plus omega square LP square. I request all of you please to check my calculation thoroughly, because I may make mistakes because I do not have any result memorized, and it is not necessary to memorize. Okay, achha. So from this I can write this will become omega square LP RP, correct, omega square LP square RP, okay, plus J omega LP RP square divided by RP square plus omega square LP square divided by RP square plus omega square LP square. Now from this equation you can readily say that LS, this should be equal to this quantity here, and RS, this should be equal to this quantity. This way you can relate LS RS with LP RP. Okay, and so here we are expressing LS and RS in terms of LP and RP. You can do the opposite thing. That means you can write LP and RP in terms of LS and RS. Okay, how will you do that? Any suggestion?
Compare the real and imaginary parts we can get. And this means we have to find. So can you please again repeat?
So here LS is expressed in terms of RP LP, RS in terms of LP RP. But can you find out the equation where you will write LP in terms of LS RS and
we can divide
RP in terms of LS RS? Yes.
So we can divide one equation by another, and then we can get a ratio of LS and RS in terms of LP and RP, and then just substitute one of those values in
Yes.
one of the equations.
Okay. In fact, you can do it in many different ways. Basically, you have two equations, two variables to write in terms of other two. You can always solve it in many different ways. So let me keep it as a homework. Okay. If you find any difficulty, then we will do it at a later stage. Yeah. In the same way, now let us talk about capacitors. And we know we indicate a capacitor with this symbol, but this is the symbol of a pure capacitor for which the relation between the voltage and the current is, if this is capacitance C, then C dV dt is equal to I. This is the relationship between voltage and current for a pure capacitor. But again, a pure capacitor is an ideal thing. A practical capacitor in principle can also have some leakage current through the insulation. Okay, here in this diagram between the two parallel plates we have some insulation. The insulations may not be perfect, may not be ideal, and there may be some current leaking from one side, one plate to the other plate. So how do we model that? How do we model that leakage current? We may model it maybe by a parallel conductance, so that some current is allowed to flow through this. This may model that leakage. Okay, call it CPRP, P for parallel, since I am representing these two components in parallel. Okay, so this is the model of a practical capacitor. But once again, just like inductor, it is not necessary here to always model this model a practical capacitor as a parallel combination of L and R. It is not necessary. We can always find a equivalent model that is a series combination of some capacitance Cs and Rs, such that from outside they will behave in the same way. To the outside world they will behave in the same way. Okay, now once again we may try to find out the relation between CPRP and CSRS. What can we do? Okay, one possible. Yes.
Sir, how the flow of leakage current possible in the series model?
Okay. Acha, let's come to that. Yeah, good question. What I say, so in this case, if you, okay, I got the answer, but I'm telling you in a minute after deriving the equivalence relation. Okay, please remind me. Yeah, acha, to find the CPRP in terms of CSRS or vice versa, let us write maybe the admittance between A and B, YAB, okay, inverse of impedance. So how much that will be? So that will be admittance of RP 1 over RP plus J omega CP, correct? This is from here, and this should be equal to the admittance of this in the series combination, which will be 1 over the impedance, which is Rs plus 1 by j omega Cs. Okay, now let us do some maths. Let us simplify this. 1 by R S j omega Cs plus 1, numerator becomes j omega Cs. Now let me multiply and divide by the quantity 1 minus j omega R S Cs. Here 1 minus j omega R S Cs. So the numerator becomes omega square, this term. Second term, omega square Cs square Rs, and first term is plus j omega Cs, this divided by 1 minus plus omega square R square Rs square Cs square, and the same thing here, 1 plus omega square Rs square Cs square. Now so from this will be this term, and Cp will be this term. Okay. Now here we can get Rp and Cp in terms of Rs and Cs. Let it be a homework to find out, express Rs and Cs in terms of Rp and Cp. Now coming back to your question, your question is how leakage current can be modeled here. Okay, I have to also rectify myself a bit, but before that let us assume, let us observe one fact, that this equivalence relation depends on omega. Okay, so omega is there, so it depends on the frequency, and if you are working at a different frequency, your relationships will change. Now if omega is 0, then we will not be able to find a CS-RS pair for as the equivalent of CP-RP. This will not be possible for omega equal to 0. Is it visible from this equation? No, not directly visible, I think. For that you have to do this homework. Okay, you have to write RSCS in terms of RPCP, and you will there realize that if omega is 0, something goes wrong. You will not be able to find RS and CS. So if you are thinking of a pure DC voltage, say pure DC voltage applied across a capacitor, then that leakage current cannot be modeled in this way. Okay, that leakage current cannot be modeled in this way. But for AC, I mean non-zero omega, these two are always equivalent. Okay, acha. Now one more fact, I talked about only the leakage. I mean, I said this resistance or conductance is to model the leakage through the insulation, but that is one factor, that may be the major factor, but that is not the only one factor. In fact, there may be other type of losses in a capacitor when dealing with AC. For example, let me tell very briefly, we have a capacitor and we have some insulation material, and when you apply voltage, say plus this side minus this side, then this material inside will get polarized. We will have this side will get some bound charges, and this side will get some induced bound negative bound charges. And when you alter this voltage, you make it minus, plus, then these polarities will also change with time. That means the dipoles or the molecules are reorienting, reshaping them continuously, and there may be some phenomena like some sort of friction, due to which this continuous reorientation, reshaping of the molecules will cause some loss, heat, energy loss. Okay. Also, there is something called ferroelectric material. Just like we have ferromagnetic material, there is also a phenomena something like ferroelectricity, where we will also observe hysteresis. Okay. This will not be as prominent as ferromagnetic materials. For good dielectrics, those things are often ignored, but in principle that is there. Okay, just like in a magnetic material, when you change current, magnetic flux in iron does not change instantaneously. Also for ferroelectric materials, there may be a gap, delay between the applied voltage and the reorientation mechanism of the dipoles. So all these things also causes energy loss, and all those energy loss is modeled via this RP. Okay, this is a simplified model under some simplified assumptions. This is the model to incorporate all those other losses also. Yes, you are right that for pure DC, the leakage current, DC leakage current cannot be modeled using this series combination. But for other frequencies, other losses, and even the leakage loss for other frequency, non-zero frequency, this will work. Yes, Ovijit, you have raised your hand. Ovijit, yeah.
So one more thing, we have already studied that directly connecting the voltage source with the capacitor problem. So there must be a series resistance in the practical capacitor, so that we do not directly connect voltage with the capacitor.
No, I did not follow this question. Please repeat.
So previously we have seen that we cannot directly connect voltage source with a capacitor. That will make no sense. So we should also have some kind of series resistance with the capacitor model, practical capacitor model. To get finite current.
One thing is that when you connect a capacitor to a source, you will definitely get some resistance due to, if nothing else, then due to the wear resistance. Okay, that is one thing. And so that is one thing. And another thing, let me repeat that this equivalence is true for a particular frequency, particular omega value. If you change omega, then this relationship will change. Okay, and this modeling that we are doing is particularly for one frequency application, like for AC steady state analysis, where omega is a constant value. Okay, so this modeling we are not doing for transients. Okay, in fact, the problem that you are that you talked about, that happens during the transient mainly. Okay, but here this actually very good question. It helps me in understanding my my things better. It's a very good question. So this modeling is basically a equivalence which is true for steady state analysis under a fixed AC frequency. Okay. In transient, this is we are not going to use this for transients. That's fine, Shubham.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now we will start talking about bridges. AC bridges. For measure. Before that, I have to say one more thing. I have to define two more terms which are called Q factor and D factor. The word, this alphabet Q stands for quality. This is a measure of goodness, in loosely speaking, measure of goodness. Okay. Suppose we are considering a practical inductor which we have modeled as a series combination of LS and some RS. We can ask how good this practical inductor is, means how pure this practical inductor is. Okay, that will be given by the Q factor. And how do we measure that goodness factor? If this is close to a pure inductor, then what should happen? This impedance should be higher compared to this impedance. L omega should be higher than R. Okay, so we will denote the quality factor as the ratio of Ls omega by Rs. Okay, this is the measure of quality factor. But if we model it in this way, LP RP, okay, then it will not be equal to LP omega by RP. It will not be equal to that. Can you tell me what it will be equal to? From intuition, this is a measure of purity of this impedance.
So Ls omega by Rs will be equal to Rp by Lp omega.
Right. Absolutely. Rp by Lp omega. And this you can also check, you should check by actually writing Ls and Rs in terms of Lp and Rp, then you put that in this equation and check whether you get the same thing or not. Okay, that is your homework. But just by looking at the circuit and from the intuition, we can say this. In the same way, there is another factor called D factor. I am not sure what this letter alphabet D exactly stands for. This may, I think, dissipation factor mostly. But you can also call degradation factor, something, a measure of badness or impurity. Okay. Now consider a lossy, leaky capacitor modeled in this way, CPRP. Now this is a measure of badness. So can you tell what this will be? So for a bad capacitor, this conductance should be higher or lower compared to this? This should be higher.
Lower.
No, conductance. Conductance should be higher.
Oh yeah, conductance should be higher.
Conductance should be higher, resistance should be lower. Okay, as a measure of badness. So we can write this as 1 over Rp, this conductance, divided by this conductance, which is omega Cp. That will come out to be omega Rpcp. Okay, and now what will happen if we model it in terms of CS, RS,
Omega RSCS.
omega RSCS. Okay, so this you may think in this way. Now this impedance, this impedance will be high compared to this impedance if it is bad. So this impedance is RS divided by this impedance, which is 1 by omega CS. Okay, you can also check it. You should check it by writing RP and CP in terms of RS and CS. Replace or substitute those values in this equation and see if you are getting this or not. Now let me come to bridge circuits. Okay. So we all have studied Wheatstone bridge where we have 4 resistances, but now we will put 4 general impedances, maybe resistance, maybe inductor, capacitor or their combinations. Okay, let me call them Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4, and then let me give a voltage supply and connect a detector. Okay. Acha, by the way, last 2 classes I made a very gigantic mistake. I remember with this. So while talking about AC potentiometers, I remember throughout my class I was saying this detector, these null detectors as galvanometers. In fact, here I also wrote the symbol G for galvanometer, and I think I did it throughout for the last 2 classes, and that is wrong here also. This is because normally when we say galvanometer is a DC measuring instrument like PMMC instrument. Also there are some special AC galvanometers, but normally we think of a DC instrument, and if we are trying to measure a AC voltage with a DC sensitive instrument, we will get 0. That we know, I mean, because voltage changes cyclically, so we will get 0 reading at normal frequencies. So therefore, whenever I said galvanometer, that was absolutely wrong. So we may use some AC meter, any type of AC meter. You may also use galvanometer with rectifiers, that is also fine. Sometimes we also use, I mean, at least in earlier days, people used to use headphones, okay, to hear whether you are getting any signal or not. You can use oscilloscope, all those things you can use. But when I said galvanometer, that was absolutely wrong. In fact, if you had done the same mistake in exam, I might have deducted your marks, but I mean, it's a bad thing that I myself did this continuously for 2 or more days. Sorry for that, absolutely. Similarly here, let us come to bridges, and we are going to measure AC impedances. So this meter, even if I say it galvanometer by slip of tongue, this point onwards, please understand this should be some AC measuring instrument. Okay, so some null detector or detector, let me say. Okay, acha. And then we can always derive the balance equation. At balance, we know this potential and this potential will be same. If I take this as my reference point, then this terminal, this potential is Z3 by Z1 plus Z3 multiplied by this V. This is this potential from here to here, and this should be equal to potential drop from here to here, which is Z4 divided by Z2 plus Z4 times V. This is just potential divider rule. V goes away. Now you can just do some manipulation and you will get Z1 by Z3 is equal to Z2 by Z4, where this Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4, they all are complex numbers. Okay, so they are all complex numbers, and therefore in this equation both the real part and imaginary part of the from the left side and right side should be equal to each other. Okay, or we can also write in this way. Suppose Z1, this is given as magnitude with angle theta 1 and so on, Z2 similarly, Z3 similarly. Then we can write Z1 by Z3 magnitude is equal to Z2 by Z4 magnitudes, and simultaneously, what else? How about theta? What will be the angle of the left side in this equation?
Theta 1 minus
Theta 1 minus theta 3, good, equal to theta 2 minus theta 4. So these two equations are to be satisfied together, then only the bridge can be balanced. Okay, if either of them is not balanced, then, not possible, then the bridge cannot be balanced. Now the thing is that while measuring an unknown impedance, okay, suppose Z2 is unknown. Okay, suppose this I denote as Zx, x for unknown. Okay, this is the one that we want to measure, and then all other impedances may be known variable standard impedances. We will vary them until and unless we get null in the detector, and then using this equation we can find Z2, just like Wheatstone bridge. But there is a difference from Wheatstone bridge, and that difference is in Wheatstone bridge it is much easier to get that balanced. Here it is bit difficult because all these are complex numbers. Okay, so basically this has a real part and an imaginary part, this has a real part, imaginary part, this has a real and imaginary part, and therefore you actually have 1, 2, 3 multiplied by 2, 6 variables, and you may have to change all those variables. So you have more variables compared to Wheatstone bridge. You have to adjust, and you may have to do it iteratively again and again. First change one parameter, do as best as you can, then change another, then change the first parameter again. You may have to do it iteratively. Therefore in practice this may be more time consuming, more boring than a Wheatstone bridge. Okay, that is one thing, and therefore now we will learn about many bridges. Okay, many bridges which are called Maxwell's bridge, Sedding's bridge, Wayne, Hay bridge, etc., etc. Before I start, let me tell, don't try to remember those names, which bridge is Maxwell's bridge, which bridge is that. It's not necessary to memorize anything. Okay, it's good to know the name of the inventors and respect them for their cleverness and for their genius, but it's not necessary to study this. Oh, Maxwell bridge is, oh, here I have a capacitor, parallel resistor, inductor here. Don't remember in that way. Okay, So don't try to remember anything. That is the one thing I will mention. And now one more thing. So we will pose some problem that, okay, see, this is the target we want to measure, say, an inductor, and these are the things available in our lab. Now you design a bridge to measure it. We will pose problems like that, and you design your own bridge. Okay, that need not be the bridge that is given in the book or whatever. So don't have to memorize anything. But two things are important to know, that while designing a bridge, two factors are important. Okay, two design factors. Number one, the balance equation should be simple. Okay, simple balance equation. And number two, it should be easy to be balanced in practice, in lab. Okay, easy to balance. Okay, there are reasons for which some bridge, if you suppose you design a complicated bridge with lot of, basically, if this is your unknown, you can put any other impedances here, L, R, C, they are complex combinations, and then you vary them, and you can do very complicated thing. And then it may happen that when you derive the balance equation, your equation will be complicated. We don't like that. That is not welcome. And second thing, sometimes it may happen that due to some reason in lab, when you change these impedances, it may take long time to converge to the null point. So that is another aspect. Okay, so these are the two aspects depending on which all those bridges, Maxwell's, etc., are designed, which are given in your books. We will focus mostly on the first factor in our course. If time permits, I will also talk about this second factor. Otherwise, I will skip about, because the second factor is more delicate to consider. Now,
So,
yes.
so we are concerned about simple balance equation. Like, is it because of minimizing the errors? Because lot of parameters will be involved, so error might be more. So, is it that reason?
That may be a factor. I didn't think in that way. But to me, firstly, if it takes me 1 hour to find the balance equation for a bridge, that is a boring thing to do. We will not go for such bridges. Okay, we will go for bridges where in 2-3 lines you can find the balance equation. And also, if your balance equation looks horrible, then in the lab, suppose you are not getting null and you want to decide which impedance to increase or decrease by looking at your balance equation, which way to move, that will also be difficult if the balance. So let us see, we will understand this. So I will talk about two particular types of bridges: product bridge and ratio bridge. Product bridge and ratio bridge, where the balance equation, basically these are two forms of bridges where the balance equation becomes very easy. Okay, so okay, here, by the way, I will not draw the source and the detector all the time. to save some time, okay, you know, I mean, they are in the opposite two arms, and the balance equation does not depend on where the source and the detector is, okay. Even if you interchange this, this balance equation remains same. It is always the ratio of adjacent arms, this by this equal to this by this, or same thing, this by this equal to this by this, okay. So therefore I will not draw the source and the detector always. But by the way, I said balance equation does not depend on how you connect the source and the detector, but do you think there may be some factor that may depend on how the source and detector is connected? We studied this in the context of Wheatstone bridge. Okay, you go back and check. It's yes.
Context resistance.
It is the sensitivity of measurement and all those factors, okay. For example, to find the sensitivity, you recall we were finding the Thevenin equivalent between the two terminals as seen by the detector, and the Thevenin resistance between these two terminals may not be same as that between these two terminals. So depending on that, the sensitivity and all those things may change, but the balance equation will not change, okay. So I will
Sir?
not, yeah.
Sir, means I wanted to ask a question. Sir, in these types of bridges, the source, the detector and the source are interchangeable, right? Means if we interchange the positions, balance will means same condition will be achieved, right?
Yes, that's what I am saying. That's what I am also saying. Source and detectors are interchangeable. Balance equation will remain same. Sensitivity may change. That's why I am not drawing the source and detector. Achha. Now here we wrote Z1 by Z3 equal to Z2 by Z4, which you can also write as say Z1 Z4 equal to, just cross multiply Z2 Z3, okay, and let me choose this as the unknown Zx, okay. From this now I can multiply this Z3, I mean take it to the other side and write Y3 admittance, okay, 1 over Z3, this is equal to Z2 or Zx, okay. Now in a product bridge, what we may do, I mean if we design a bridge in the form with the ideology of a product bridge, what we will do, we will choose this factor Z1 Z4 to be a pure real or pure imaginary number, okay. If that is what we do, then the balance equation will be very simple, okay. Let me tell this in the with an example, okay. Suppose this unknown impedance that we want to measure is a coil. Coil means it's a L-R combination, and we choose to model it as a series combination of Lx and Rx, okay. So this is the unknown we want to find out, and now to design a bridge, we have to decide what to take here, resistance, capacitor, inductor, or some combination. What to take here, what to take here, all these things are to be decided by us. Now if we follow the idea of product bridge, what we will do, we will take the product of two opposite arms as a pure real number or imaginary number. For example, here I can choose this to be a pure resistance, this also to be a pure resistance. Okay, Achha. And this is the equation that I have. Okay, Z2 equal to this, Z2 means this. Okay, so let this equation will become Z2 is Lx j omega plus Rx. This is equal to this factor Z1, Z4, Y3. Now Z1, Z4, they are just R1, R4, pure real number I have chosen. So R1, R4, this multiplied with Y3. Now further let me choose Y3 to be like this, a parallel combination of a capacitor and a resistance. Call it what can I call, C3R3. Then how much is Y3? Y3 will be 1 by R3 plus j omega C3, and I am done. My balance equation is done. So what will be my balance equation? What can I say from this? Lx will be this imaginary term R1, R4, C3, correct? And Rx, that will be R1, R4 by R3. And I am done. So just in 2 lines, my balance equation is over. So I can find the balance equation in two lines. It looks so simple. Okay. And that is possible just because I have taken the product of R1, R4 to be a real number, pure real number. If I had taken this to be some complex, say some L4, R4, then you have to multiply that, some complex multiplication you have to do, then you have to separate real and imaginary part, long process. Why should I unnecessarily go for such long process? Okay, so this is the idea of a product bridge. Okay, this makes life so simple. Just to tell you, this particular bridge is called Maxwell's bridge. Don't have to remember the name at all. Okay, Achha. In the same way, let us talk about the ratio bridge. What is a ratio bridge? So the balance equation is like this, let me write Z2 by Z4, this by this is equal to 1 by 3. Always the ratio of adjacent arms is same. From this I can write Z2 to be equal to this. Okay, just cross multiply. Okay, now if I want to make my life simple, what I can do, I can say choose this factor Z1 by Z3 to be a pure real or imaginary number. Don't go for a complex number. If I do this, then I can easily equate the real part of Z2 with the real part of Z4 multiplied by this, and imaginary part of Z2 will be equated to the imaginary part of Z4 multiplied by this. It will be so simple. Okay, let me take an example to illustrate this, how simple it becomes. Okay, suppose I am interested in measuring a capacitor. Okay, and suppose I choose to model my unknown capacitor in as a parallel combination of capacitor and call it Cx Rx. Okay, acha. Then do you have any suggestion how to choose, what to choose for Z1, Z4 and Z3 to make a simple life to get
So we
simple
can choose Z1 and Z3 to be pure resistors.
Z1 and Z3 to be pure, Z1 and Z3 you can choose them to be pure resistors. Good. R1 and R3, and my balance equation is Z2, so in place of Z2 I will write illustrate, let me, to make the illustration simple, let me choose to model my unknown capacitor and as a series combination of LS and RS. Okay, then even other ways I could do, but I don't want to go to that complexity at the beginning. Okay, so now I will write this impedance RS plus 1 by j omega Cs. This is equal to Z1 by Z3, that is R1 by R3, R1 by R3 multiplied by Z4. So Z4. Now what would you like to choose in place of Z4? By the way, let me write X. X for unknown. What would you like to take in place of Z4 to get an easy balance equation? Any suggestion?
Resistance and capacitance.
Sir, in the capacitance.
Okay, let me just, right. So let me just take a
Resistor and capacitor.
resistance, just like this. Let me take this is 1, 2, 3, 4, C4, R4. So then this will become R4 plus 1 by j omega C4, and I am done. My balance equation is ready. Now you equate real to real, imaginary to imaginary, so you get Rx equal to R1, R3, R4, and Cx, that will be, Cx will be R3 by R1 C4. Please check. Okay, but I'm done just in 2 lines.
Sir, we could have also modeled a inductor with parallel to a resistor, right? In place of Z4.
Yes, possible, but that is, at present I will say yes, right, possible. Okay, so now if you have followed this idea of product bridge and ratio bridge, how it makes our life so simple, let me finish by one last example. Okay, suppose, which I didn't do initially, suppose I choose to model my unknown capacitor as a parallel combination of Cx and Rx, then what would you like to choose in place of these other 3 unknowns, other 3 impedances? Any suggestion which will give a simple balance equation? Okay, suppose if we go for a ratio bridge, what do we have to do for a ratio bridge? For a ratio bridge, we have to take the ratio of 2 adjacent arms to be purely real or imaginary number. So maybe I choose to take these 2 arms to give a pure real or imaginary number. Let me call 1, 2, 3, 4 R3, R4. Okay, then I can write this impedance, by this impedance Zx by Z1, that will be R4 by R3, correct? This by this, this by this, and from this I can write Yx by Y1 is equal to R3 by R4, and let me bring Y1 here. Okay, so now from this, any suggestion what would you like to choose here? One possible simple answer is just
in parallel.
one possibility. Another very simple possibility, I mean even simpler, just take the same combination. You know, I mean, whatever Yx, whatever form of Yx you have, you take the same form of Y1, then it will be even more easy. Okay, so let me just take something like this, C1 R1, and then this becomes 1 by R1 plus j omega C1 equal, oh sorry, x R3 by R4, here 1 by R1 plus j omega C1, and I am done. So what is my balance equation? Rx will be equal to R1 R4 by R3 by equating the real part, and Cx will be equal to 3 by 4 R3 by R4 multiplied by C1, and done. Okay, so you see how simple it is to design bridges in terms of, in the form of product bridge or ratio bridge. So thank you for today. We will meet again tomorrow.